Hello everyone, welcome back to the Dork side. I am your friendly neighborhood dork in the woods. And today, we're going to talk about 5 things I hate about my CRF 250L dual sport motorcycle. That's right everyone, I am the Dork in the Road and I want to be your internet riding buddy. And unlike your other riding buddies, I'm available whenever you want and I come with a mute button. So please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you'll know the second new content is posted. Now those of you that have followed the channel for any length of time know that I love the CRF 250L. I recommend it all the time. If I had to go down to one motorcycle, it would be this one. Hands down, no questions asked. But it is a great bike in a lot of ways, but it's not perfect. And it definitely has some downsides that I'd want to be aware of before I decided to purchase one. So we're going to talk about the 5 things I hate about the CRF 250L. First thing I hate, and you can probably kind of hear it right now, or more accurately, can't hear it, because the exhaust sound on this bike is anemic at best. It sounds like a wind-up toy. It's not awe-inspiring, confidence-inspiring. It does not sound like a dirt bike. It's not supposed to, and as part of that is because they have to pass emissions and they have to pass sound. I get it, it's a street legal bike and you have to make sacrifices, but it definitely just sounds weak and piddly, and anemic is really the best word that I have for it. It just doesn't sound good. It sounds not good. It sounds like uninspiring is a great word for it. And so sometimes you forget the damn thing is even running. And that is a problem, I feel like, on a bike, a dirt bike that you want to ride in the woods. There's Mount Jefferson again. Beautiful. So you can buy this an aftermarket exhaust, and that may be one of the first things you want to invest in if you're planning on picking up a CRF 250L. I wouldn't blame you. I'm not willing to spend the money just to improve the sound. I want to improve the performance too, and I don't want to do that until I'm ready to do intake, fuel, controller, and exhaust, and that's like $1,000 all told. So I haven't gotten there yet, so I still have the stock exhaust. It's also really heavy. It adds a lot of weight to the bike, and it's ugly as hell. It sticks way out over there. So the stock exhaust, thing one that I don't love, that I hate about the CRF 250L, you're gonna have to deal with some vibration, I think, because this whole road is very graded. Thing two, a lot of these are stock things, and some of them are things that I've upgraded that shouldn't surprise you. So the thing two that I really don't like about the CRF 250L is that the seat, the stock seat, feels like a piece of plywood. And actually feels like a 2x4, because not only is it incredibly hard, that makes it uncomfortable, it's also super narrow. So the weight is not distributed at all, and so all of your weight is concentrated on a very narrow strip, which happens to be also very hard with almost no padding. And yeah, it's a dirt bike seat. Again, this isn't an all-day cruiser. I get it. It's not what it's made for. But the seat could be used with a little bit nicer foam. It's like the cheapest thing ever. I'm not even sure there's foam in there, I'll be honest. It's a reason why I added the Mad Dog seat pad for 20 bucks, and it is a massive improvement. Not only because it gives you a little extra cushion, it's not even a ton of extra padding, but it's enough to make a difference. But the most important thing is that it widens the seat so that the weight is spread out more evenly, and therefore it doesn't hurt as much as quickly. I don't like the idea of riding this thing on the road for hours and hours at a time. I don't mind riding it for hours and hours at a time up here in the woods because I'm moving around in the seat a lot, I'm standing up, I'm doing all that stuff. But on the road, it's not a great seat. So if you sit on the thing and you're like, that seat feels hard, I wonder if it breaks in. In my experience, it does not. So that is what you're getting. So a lot of people will upgrade to seat concept seats, or you could do the seat pad like I've done. There's the shelter again. Lots of options there, but not many people that I know of that have these things stay with the stock seat for very long because it sucks. Third thing that I hate about the CRF 250L that I wish was different, it's really heavy. And I feel like it's really heavy in a very top-heavy way. So it's a road legal bike. That exhaust is part of it. It's like 35 pounds or something crazy. But it's heavier than a DRZ 400, which has 150 more cc's of engine if you're doing the math at home. It's heavier than a lot of bikes that are much bigger, and I think part of that is Honda build quality, and it just is a little bit heavier because they have so many awesome things. I don't know, but it's definitely a very heavy bike that makes it a little bit unwieldy on the trails. A lot of that is rider skill, and I honestly don't have that much, so it definitely affects me as a newish journeyman rider. But picking it up is no picnic. You can do it by yourself, but it's always heavier than I think it's going to be, especially with a full tank of gas. Just know that it's a very heavy dual sport. That's a very common complaint about it, and that factors into when you're loading it in the truck and when you have to pick it up and maneuvering slowly and trying to balance. It's just a heavy bike. I'm okay with that. I'll take a little weight because the trade-off is Honda's Bulletproof Reliability. I'm fine with it. I have been fine with it, and I don't know any better because it's the only off-road bike I've ever owned, so probably someday I'll get on a real dirt bike and have my mind blown. But it definitely is something to consider if you're thinking about getting the CRF. The weight, it's a very heavy bike. Thing number 4 that I don't like about the CRF, and that may have something to do, the weight that I mentioned before may have something to do with this, but the suspension is very soft. It's not like super soft. Like my Grom suspension is way worse, and you know, it has a lot of travel. Like it's been fine for me, but I can, if I'm not careful, bottom out the rear shock in particular, going over whoops or whatever. Like it bottoms out easily. So it's forgiving on the light bumps, but you really feel the big bumps. And so it's a trade-off there too. A lot of people upgrade the suspension right away. All of these things are going to be really common mods, or things that there are really common mods to rectify, because I'm not the only one who feels like the suspension is soft. And again, this is my first off-road bike. I don't really know the difference, so I don't know what a super stiff suspension feels like, but I do know that I've bottomed this out more times than I care to admit. I've had it come back and hit me in the ass when I was going over whoops and stuff, and so I'm real careful when the bumps get big, because I don't trust the suspension not to bottom out, front and back. So it's something to consider, something to keep in mind. It's a heavy bike, that adds to the preload weight, so the suspension is always a little bit more compressed than it would be on a lighter bike. And so all of that kind of adds up to a bike that's just a little bit harder, not harder to handle because the power is definitely incredibly manageable. That's never been a concern, but harder to control in that the ground is, it'll affect you in ways it wouldn't if the suspension was better or the weight was lower. You could ride over the top of things like those, the grader lines, the little mini whoops. I can get up on top of them sometime, but sometime it's really, I'm just feeling them all like because the suspension doesn't soak it up like it should. And finally, the 5th thing that I hate about my CRF 250L is it's pretty hilarious that they ship this bike, market it as an off-road bike, and then say, oh, it comes with a skid plate and some of the other protection that it comes with. Okay, the stock skid plate on this bike, if you've never seen it, is about the thickness of a drinking straw. Okay, I'm barely exaggerating, and it only covers the area between the frame rails underneath, so it doesn't extend out along the sides to even deflect a piece of gravel from your water pump or your oil filter. It's just up underneath. So I guess it might deflect gravel, like I said. It might deflect a stick, depending on the angle you hit it at, but it's not going to do anything. It's going to flex, and if you hit a rock or a big log, it's going to go right into your engine. So one of the first things that I bought was an aluminum skid plate, and this one, if you've seen the top 10 CRF 250L Mods video, it sticks out past the sides. It was a great upgrade. Does not affect the bike's handling or speed or anything. Noise a little bit, but it was totally worth it, and I would highly recommend that as a first upgrade, because the stock skid plate is a joke. There is no lever protection whatsoever on this stock bike, and the levers are cheap and break incredibly easily. I know because I had the same levers on my CB500F, and I set it down gently on the ground after my pant got caught on the pig, and it broke the damn lever in half. So they're not sturdy at all. So you gotta add protection. If you're buying this bike, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is invest in some mods, and I started with protection mods, and I would recommend you do the same thing. So these hand guards, 80 bucks, the skid plate was 100 bucks. Okay, it's really important to have those things and protect your investment. I've also bent the shit out of the brake lever, the rear brake lever. This is my second one, and then I replaced the shift lever because I knew that I was gonna snap it too. So I have a folding one now that I'm a lot more confident with. So the 5th thing that I hate about the CRF 250L, see what I mean about the suspension? This is all like where a grader has been, and it's real bumpy, and it shouldn't be this bad. That's the 5th thing I don't like about the CRF, is the stock protection is a joke. What is there is hilariously inept, and what isn't there is even worse. I mean, what they don't give you with, and they should, is insulting if you're going to do any off-road riding. So, unless you're going to ride it as a street bike, that's pretty much what it's set up for when you get it. So what about you? Do you own a CRF? What thing do you hate about your CRF 250L? Now keep in mind, I love this bike overall. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it's not perfect, and I'm sure you have some annoyances that you don't like about your bike. So please leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the 5 things that I don't like about my CRF 250L. And here's a bonus. I got you a present, okay? And the present is, this is part 1 of a 2-part series. The other part is 5 things I love about my CRF 250L. So there should be a link popping up to that video right now. Do me a favor, check it out. And in the meantime, please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.